So on today's podcast, the Tezlom Podcast, we've got Tim Morris. He's now a lead at Symphony, but hearing his franchise journey as a very humble guy, and I absolutely love his background in hospitality. This podcast is definitely one to watch if you want to think about growth, going through some hardship, and learning how to be a leader. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I took a lot from this podcast. Thanks for listening. Okay, here we are. It's been a little while actually since I've done one, but here's the Tezlom Podcast, and I'm delighted to be joined by, introduce yourself please, sir.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Tim Morris, Ryan, heading up Symphony for the last 3 years, but been in franchising, which I'm sure we'll get into in more detail, for
forever,
many years, which I don't like admitting to, but I've realised I have to admit to it now. Yeah.
It's interesting. I look back for your LinkedIn profile because, again, I just try not to get to know the guests on a detailed level. I think that, from my perspective, and I don't want to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but I'm going to do, is that you've always been a helping hand to me. If it's been a conversation you've not realised that's helped me, or you've just been stood on my stand while I go and talk publicly, you've always been someone that's been very warm and receiving, and I want to say I appreciate that, and so's Jem. I've always said he's fucking sound, Timony, and I think there's been passing conversations between us that have helped me, and I think that's vitally important for anyone who's thinking about coming into franchising. Is it's not always what you read or what you watch, it's the people you talk to, and I think there's a really nice community, and I think they're the foundations of the UK. I talked about this with Theo, and I talked about this with Louise Harris, actually, the UK franchising industry need people like you. They need more people who are, most people are actually like that, aren't they, Tim?
Absolutely.
They've been in it a long while, they've been through the ups and downs of it, and they're quite comfortable supporting people, and I think I'd say you're like that.
No, thanks for that, and I appreciate that, because I do like helping franchisors, whatever level their development is, or what size they are. I just think, and it is the great thing about franchising, isn't it? It's we're a community, and you talked about the UK just before we started the podcast. We were talking about the US. Yeah, it's exactly the same in the US.
Is it?
The community's sound. They help each other. They look for advice from one another. And the amazing thing about franchising is that many franchises, they're all in completely different sectors. Yeah. But they've all got this common thread of franchising.
Yeah, I think the other analogy is what I always think of is like, it's weird, isn't it? Because I've got competitors who do exactly the same thing as me in franchising, but I speak to them like they're my friend, and we talk about the advice. And I think it's because it's not like a customer selling a car and you're trying to sell that particular car. It's if that franchisee fits your brand, and if you've got it right, you shouldn't have to compete. You shouldn't. It should be they fall in love with you and you fall in love with them. Yeah. That's how it should be, shouldn't it? Really? Because if you've got it any other way and you're trying to do a deal you've got it actually wrong. Yeah. So that's why you don't see other franchisors as competitors, so to speak, because especially domiciliary market or recruitment market or any of the food ones. Yeah. I can't see. There's no point trying to have that horrible competitiveness because.
No, franchising is about a marriage.
Yeah,
it is so close to a marriage, and you talk about the life cycle of a franchisee, or the relationship between franchisors and franchisees, and there's that honeymoon period, just like when you get married. Yeah. There's that comfortable period, and there's sometimes turmoil within that period as well, and then there's the right at the very end, there's this. Now we're really comfortable with one another, and we just get on and we
grow together.
Yeah, and we grow together. But it is very much like a marriage, and so this thing about competitors within the sector, within franchising, you're absolutely right. It's more about the relationship which you have with the franchisee and the franchisee has with you. That's the defining thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
I found that too. Yeah. Just one question. I've been doing this on some of the podcasts. It's hard to define this, but if someone was thinking about buying a franchise, what would be a paragraph, a sentence, or your advice based on your experience of being in franchising? What would your bit of advice be to someone who's thinking about buying a franchise?
First and foremost, that you are someone who is willing and able to embrace the work that's come before you and the integrity behind that, the branding, the business model, the operations manual, and you have an absolute desire to grow a successful business within that model. If you are somebody who is truly entrepreneurial, who decides that you want to, I'll buy a restaurant franchise and it says I can't sell magazines in it, but I can make some money off magazines, so I'll stick magazines in there. That's not for you. So if you're thinking about franchising, it is about being able and willing to work within that model and the hard work that's gone to create that model.
Yeah, being able to learn from the mistakes prior hand. That's what you're paying for, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find really great about franchising as well is when you become a franchisee and you've got this great relationship with franchisors, the franchise itself will develop, and that's the job of a franchisor, to help future-proof the business, which is a great advantage to being a franchisee. A lot of the work which you'd have to spend a lot of money on, research and development and rebranding and that's done for you in franchising. Yeah. But with a successful franchise, you'll also be, your views, your ideas, your thoughts about how the brand can be developed will be taken into account. So, the big story of McDonald's, for example, we all know the Big Mac. It's the most famous burger in the world. That was developed by a franchisee.
I love that.
Not McDonald's.
Yeah, great.
And there's lots of examples like that. And I worked for Tutor Doctor for many years.
Yeah. Well, stop. So we'll be dead straight with you. You've got a big career history, and it happens with age.
Far too long.
Yeah. But I always like to find out how people got into franchising. It was interesting with Louise. She was married into it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Come on. How did you start? How did you get into franchising? What were you doing at the time?
Yeah. So I trained. And my tertiary education was in the hospitality industry.
Really?
Hotels. Yep. I came home one day and I told my folks I wanted to work in the hotel industry.
So you've been in school and college and uni, or what did you do? How did you go for all that?
So I went from school. I left school at 16. Went to technical college or whatever they were called then, and then I ended up working in London at a posh hotel just outside London for a couple of years, and did what was known then as a craft training. So I did everything from reception to being a chef to being a porter, being a night porter.
So did you actually just want to do that from college, from school?
Yeah. I don't know why, because I've never stayed in brilliant hotels. We'd never gone on posh holidays as a kid.
Mate, what's have you ever thought about it? Tried to break it down? Have you ever thought about that?
No. All I know is honestly, I went home one day and I said, I know what I want to do, Mum, Dad. I'm going to go into the hotel business. And they went, okay.
Were they in the hotel business?
No, my dad was an analytical chemist. Working for what is now AstraZeneca.
No way. What does your mum do?
She was a housewife her whole adult life, but
brothers or sisters or anything?
No, my brother became a photographer, my sister became a horticulturalist or whatever. So there was no connection in the family, nowhere. So I was lucky enough during that period where I was training and this is a very long story, too long for this podcast, but I ended up in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia for 6 months and came back to the UK to finish off my studies at Oxford Polytechnic, and then I wanted to go back to Africa. I absolutely wanted to go back to Africa. the only...
Mate, you're going to have to tell me how you got to Africa. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to be a bit long podcast. Come on, how the fuck do you get an invite to Africa? What happened there?
So the hotel that I was working for in London, at the time, Rhodesia was going through the sort of tail end of its war. There was a guy in the tourism office wanted the hotel school students in Bulawayo, their top students, to have international experience. Very difficult in a country which was being hamstrung by worldwide sanctions. Anyway, I don't know how we got to know the MD of the hotel that I was working at, a place called Tezlom Park Hotel, and said, could you host some of my students from Bulawayo Hotel School? And John Orr said, yeah, sure, but there has to be a quid pro quo. I want some of my students to go to Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia as it was at the time. And Bill Niven said, yeah, fine, no problem. So at one point I was invited, would you like to go to Zimbabwe for 6 months? And so I did.
Amazing.
And
how old were you then, mate?
19.
That is brave at 19, isn't it?
And it was right at the end of the war, so there was still things going on.
What did Mum think about that?
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly, my mum, who's still alive today, bless her, she pulled out of her one of her drawers just a few weeks ago. She said, "Do you remember this?" And it was a telex. Do you know what a telex is, Ryan?
A text message by paper.
By paper, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. So I'd sent a telex. So this was 1979, 1980, just before independence of Zimbabwe. I'd sent a telex to them, to my father's work, to say, don't worry, I'm safe, everything's okay, because a bomb had gone off in a church opposite the hotel that I worked at, which has got 30-odd stories.
Mate, your mum will have had some sleepless nights. 19 years old and there's a bomb gone off across it.
Yeah. No, it was a really interesting time. Really interesting time. In fact, can I tell you another story?
Just go off on it, yeah.
A quick story.
Yeah.
So, very sadly, there was an instance of soldiers, Rhodesian army soldiers, coming into the bar that at the hotel that I worked at. And obviously security was very tight at all the public places, but somehow one of these guys, they were on R&R for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Got into the bar, and one of them got in with a weapon. And the bar was crowded, and it was quite dark.
You're behind the bar serving?
No. I was the duty manager at the time.
Right.
And they decided that they were going to play Russian roulette.
Fuck off.
Honestly. This is what wars do to people. It screws with people's minds. And they played Russian roulette, and one guy lost.
No, he didn't.
Absolutely seriously. Absolutely
Mate,
serious. Yeah.
That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. And these are some of the early experiences I had. So we haven't even got into franchising yet, but
I think these are all the bits.
But this is connected to a little bit to franchising.
Go on.
So,
mate, wait a minute. So this guy's blown his head off in the bar.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Okay, and we had to send people in to clean up and all the rest of it.
You just empty the place.
Bar gone, and then
Mate,
obviously police in and etc. But it was nasty, because anybody who knows how Russian roulette's played, it's to the head.
Hell, mate.
Yeah.
You're the first person I know who's ever found a dead body like me. I've not met anyone else yet like that. It's obviously old people in beds and stuff.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not nice at all. And so I can
never leaves you.
absolutely empathise with that. Fast forward nearly 40 years, and when we go to the franchise shows and we have drinks at the end of the day, which are sponsored by whoever it is, and
WellPay.
Yeah, at the moment it's WellPay. And the previous owner of not ERA, cost control franchise. It's slipped from my mind now. The guy's name was Chris, and I can't remember his surname right now, which sounds terrible. But we were sitting having drinks, and it turns out he was in Zimbabwe, he lived in Zimbabwe, and he was in that bar at exactly the same time and witnessed that.
No, that is...
Honestly,
mate, that is...
Honestly, we were just talking, having drinks, and the conversation narrowed down to this night at the Monomotapa Hotel in Salisbury, and we just looked at each other and, were you there? He said, yeah, I was there. I said, wow.
Mate, that album...
Can I swear now?
Yeah,
I just went, fuck me.
I bet you
kidding
did.
me? And there's a connection to franchising way back then.
Mate, that's insane. And it's just funny saying it when you say to people that the world's a small place, but
Yeah,
it's really,
absolutely.
mate,
Yeah.
that makes the world feel really small.
Absolutely. So then going back to how I got into franchising, shall we?
I just really intrigued because I can see the hospitality in you. I can see the hospitality sector in you, like the way you are as a person. It takes a special type of person to be in hospitality.
Exactly. So what I learned in that industry, I've carried through in
100%.
everything that I've done.
I can tell.
So just to finish off the story, I ended up I couldn't go back to Zimbabwe. I didn't want to work in the UK. I applied for a job to work for Holiday Inns in South Africa. What I didn't realise I had no knowledge of franchising at that stage. I knew the brand Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
And then once I at the age of 20 or whatever it was, I emigrated to South Africa, just packed my suitcase and off I went. And soon after that, I realised, we're getting an inspection from a brand auditor out of Memphis, Tennessee, out of Holiday Inn's head office. Then
I didn't know Holiday Inn was a franchise.
Yeah, well, there you go.
No way.
There you go. So then I realised, this is why we've got the operations manual in the reception. This is why we've got this. This is why we do that. This is why we're part of this marketing program. It's all a global franchise. And it turned out that I worked for the biggest Holiday Inn franchisee in the world at that time. We had 23 hotels across South Africa. And it was the biggest franchisee in the world.
Mate, so you've literally been in franchising since you were 20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not going to ask me how old I am.
No.
But it might you might be able to fill in all the dots as we go along. But then I realised, I'm in franchising, and everything that goes along with that, the inspections, the standards, the build, the everything. It was quite amazing. I mean, the American original Holiday Inn blueprint was taken and it was plonked into the South African landscape. So there were across the country there were cloned hotels, literally cloned. Yeah. 120 bedrooms, 2 stories high. Some rooms car park facing, some rooms pool facing, 2 double beds in each room so that 4 people could stay in them, mum and dad and 2 kids. That was the vision of Kemmons Wilson when he started franchising Holiday Inns in the States, because there wasn't anywhere for families to stay when they were going on long journeys. It was such a big brand in South Africa that they even built a hotel, built a road to get to the hotel, and called it Kemmons Wilson Drive after the founder of
was it a big employer then? It must have been a big employer in
Yeah.
I literally don't know anything about South Africa.
No. So we had we had 5,000 or 6,000 employees in total.
So it's a big employer.
All over the country the hotels were, and then
is that what, did you really fall in love with it then? What was the deciding factor to go back? It was just, did you fall in love with a girl there?
No.
Just love the people and love the
Africa it was Africa. It wasn't. Look, South Africa. We know that it had the political situation going on, etc. But it wasn't that. It was just the culture of Africa. The different cultures that there were. I mean, in South Africa, you've got Zulu and Xhosa and Venda and Ndebele's and the Afrikaans-speaking people and English-speaking people, and it's just a melting pot of cultures. So that was brilliant. the landscape of Africa is, the smell of Africa is incredible. The wildlife is incredible. It's just...
Mate,
it's
so
just amazing.
I need to scratch this. Like, so 19 years old, what was the driver to get away, mate? What was it? Did you live in a small village? What is there any driver at all? Or just...
Okay, so I've this has gone through my mind my whole life. Why did I want to get away?
Yeah.
So many people just, they're born, they stick around where they live, or have been born, brought up, etc., etc. Or they people stay in their own country.
Yeah, or they completely run away, and sometimes they're running away from something they hate, or they run away from themselves.
Absolutely.
But you don't strike me that type of person.
No. My parents were part of this £10 pom crew back in the 1960s. The £10 poms were the ones who emigrated to Australia for £10 a ticket back in the 1960s, and my parents decided, right, we're going to go to Australia and live there, which we did, and 4 years later they were back again, like so many Brits. Some stayed, some just came straight back again. But the only thing that I can tie this to, this going to Africa thing, was that I'd been bitten with this travel thing of living somewhere else because my folks had taken me to Australia. So I've got no hang-ups. I'm not running away from anything.
No, it's just interesting, because at 19 as well, you kind of don't know what your day is, do you really? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some clever student 19s.
And quite interestingly, I'm a natural introvert.
Are you really?
Yeah, so I don't do standing on stage and talking to people and videos and things. But I've learned
to push yourself,
to push myself out of the comfort zone.
So mum and dad took you to Australia, which then made you go, the world's a big place.
I can do this. And that's one of my kids has exactly that same view as well. I ended up in South Africa, loving the hospitality industry. It got a bit tense in South Africa, as everybody who understands what happened in the 80s and 90s would realise. And I decided, this is getting a bit close to home. I need to move on from South Africa. So I came back to the UK, and I don't really want to work in the UK. I know, I'll go and work on a tropical island. So I walked into a travel agent, and I picked up a brochure, and I sent my CV off to, 15 and this is in the days where you had to actually put a stamp on a letter, send it off around the world, send a CV in an envelope around the world, never knowing whether it will get there or not. Anyway, one of them was to a hotel in Papua New Guinea, and the general manager of this hotel phoned me and said, do you want an interview for an assistant food and beverage job? So I said, yeah, okay. And he offered me a job straight there and then. He said, right, get your work permit, get on a plane, and you've got a 2-year contract with us. And if you fulfill your 2-year contract, you get an automatic work permit to go to Australia. They'd got an agreement between...
No way.
So I thought, that sounds like a good idea.
How old are you then, like 25 or something?
No, then I was 22, 23.
No way.
Yeah. So I went there. That didn't work out.
No,
It's all right thinking that you're going to a tropical island, but it's a beautiful country, but again, a long story around it, but it's not the place for a single guy to go to and stick it out for 2 years.
Come on, you got to tell me fucking why. Come on, why?
No.
Okay, we'll talk about off camera then.
So I only lasted there a few months, and I said to the GM, I said, look, I'm really sorry, Chris.
No way.
I can't do this. I'm going to have to
go.
And again, I used my contacts and ended up working in Germany for a few months. I thought, I'll go and learn another language. Problem is, in Germany, they all wanted to speak English to me. They wanted to learn English, and so they wouldn't speak German. So I thought, no, I'm not enjoying this. And then I started hankering back to Africa again. And I literally had enough money left to get on a plane and go back.
Went back to Holiday Inn.
And I went, yeah, and I phoned them and I said, can I come back? Unbroken service, just get me a job. Yep, no problem, come back straight away.
Okay.
So I got on a plane, and as I say, I had literally had no money when I got back. I'd spent it all on my airfare. I had my suitcase and no money. And that ended up being a situation where we started franchising within the hotels. Franchising was a big industry in South Africa at that stage.
Right.
Yeah, also quite interesting because South Africa was under global sanctions as well. Very, very few international brands were operating in the country.
Right.
So no McDonald's, no Pizza Hut, no this, that, and the other. And so they created their own brands and franchised them. So some of those brands have ended up in the UK. Ocean Basket is one of them, which is starting to take off in the UK. We all know Nando's.
Yeah.
Nando's is a South African brand.
No way.
Yeah, which competed. We did have KFC in South Africa, and so Nando's found its sites diagonally opposite every KFC that they could when they launched. And it's now a huge global brand. Other brands like Steers and Debonair's Pizzas and I'm trying to think of some of the others as well. Oh, there was the London Pie Company, which created a franchise out of using double-decker buses, which were no longer used, and they put them in car parks, painted them red, and made them into pie shops.
No way.
Yeah, so it was a huge franchising sector in South Africa. And to support hotels, we started bringing those franchise brands inside the hotels to operate the restaurants and the bars, et cetera, et cetera. So I got even more exposure to franchising. Mate, next question.
I feel like you're the most experienced person I've interviewed in franchising so far. I'm not even like.
And I don't see that. You see,
I'm not even 25 yet.
Oh, it was a really interesting time, and I didn't realise what was.
How long did you spend in Africa then?
I ended up coming back here with the family in 2000. But 1995 to 2000, I left the hospitality industry, knowing that I had.
So did you meet a missus over in Africa?
Yeah.
So is your missus African?
She's South African. My kids were born in South Africa.
No way, I love that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. What's the schooling like over there? Is it same? Was it very similar sort of setup?
Yeah. Again, it's a bit of a hot potato at that time because it was very divided. Yeah. So you've got one education for one part of the community population and a much better education system for the other section of the community. That, of course, has all changed now. Yeah. Interestingly, at one of the franchise events here in London, only a little while ago, I was sitting having drinks at the end of the show. This was at XL, and a lady sitting next to me said, "Oh, that sounds like a South African accent. Very few people can pick it up, but she picked it up." And she was obviously South African, and we got talking, and turns out she went to exactly the same school as my two kids went to.
No way.
No ways. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
I
just remembered now, but no wonder your kids have got the same appetite then as well. If you've moved back to the UK and they were born in South Africa, they're the ones that got that travelling bug or that.
Especially Michelle. She just, absolutely. Yeah. So, 1995, I'd got the bug of having my own business. Yeah. But I didn't want to have my own business in the hospitality industry. Yeah. Because of the hours.
I was going to say, having kids in hospitality is difficult. Isn't
very, very tough. And I realised that I'm
sorry, Tim. I have to just ask these questions because we lose. What did the missus do? How did you meet her?
Yeah, she was in the hotel business as well.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. But then when the kids came along, she spent most of her time looking after the kids and doing more part-time work, etc. Yes. But she was from a hospitality background.
So you both moved to the UK and both said, "I'm not going back into hospitality," sort of thing.
Yeah. Before that, so 1995. We were still living in South Africa. It was just after the first democratic elections when Mandela was appointed president. that we invested in our first business, and it was a franchise. I became a franchisee. So I'd seen all this around me of franchising.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I saw the value of a brand. I saw the value of a business model. I saw the value of the support and the training and all of that type of thing. So
you've been part and parcel with Holiday Inn, haven't you? So
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And I knew that what I could bring to the business was what I'd learned in terms of customer service, quality, and all of that, to whatever franchise that I brought into.
See, I think the hospitality industry is a bit like the car industry in terms of the work ethic it gives you. When you've met someone who's done long hours, covered shifts,
Yeah, exactly.
public speaking, but public facing, phone calls, dealing with that, they have a different work ethic. Absolutely. They just think completely different than someone else. When you meet someone who's worked in an office and I meet someone who's worked front facing, they're completely different people. Yeah. Because they've just had to work whatever it takes.
You absolutely bang on there.
Yeah, you just that is they're like some people they can't. There is no a lot of people. I have some that work for me, and it's a very clean cut for them. Is like I work these hours and these are the hours that I work, and I'm not going to do anything else. And if I am, I want a gold star for it. Hospitality sector's like what I don't have a personal life. And it isn't a bad thing. It's because it's amazing as well, the hospitality sector. Sometimes I'm guessing there'll be some people in the hospitality sector might watch this and go, "You're fucking joking." But majority of people that work in it absolutely love it. Yeah. And it's the long hours, it's the passion, the drive, the part of the community of people you work with. Yeah. But generally, if someone comes from hospitality background, they've got the most ridiculous work ethic you've ever found in your life. Yeah,
and you've obviously got some insight into it, but that's exactly it.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a 14, 15, 16-hour day, it's going to be a 14,
you don't
15,
even glimmer at it.
No.
There's no like, oh, this is...
No, no. Talk briefly about my wife at the time. I've seen her do 36-hour shifts because it just had to be done. You can't say to a wedding party, "Sorry, can you come back next week?"
Yeah, it's got to be done.
Well, you've just got to do it. Yeah. It does create a work ethic, but it also hospitality is great for learning and understanding the needs and wants of individuals.
Yeah, empathy.
That empathy thing, that really deep
patience, empathy.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, reading body language, and reacting to that.
But mate, you'll be the same because you travel so much like me. When you go to a hotel and you meet a good front of house or you just see it, don't you?
Straight away.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. When I meet a bad one, I'm like,
oh, here we go.
Yeah, but when I meet a good one, I love it. I don't say anything sometimes, but I just feel like giving him a hug, saying like, fucking hell, well done, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It was in South Africa that I learnt the power of empowering team members to do stuff.
Yeah. I was gonna tap into that a little bit. Is like your team building stuff and learning that at a young age and things. Are like you must have made some mistakes, mate. You're like, that's the only way you kind of learn, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I was young. We're all young. We all have to learn. None of us are born with this is how it's got to be done. Somebody's got to have the patience to teach it.
Yeah.
And for you to be willing to embrace all of that and understand it, et cetera, and then you can start passing that on as well.
Can you remember any points you've ever fucked up and you've had to fix it? Might be the test. Can you?
Yeah.
Would you share?
Yeah. It's so long ago.
I know I'm stretching you, but there's always points, isn't there? There's always a day or a point when you think, fucking hell, I messed up there.
Yeah, and this is more operational than the team or people, but there's been, I've just thought of another one now where it's people. But operationally, we were, one of the hotels that I was working in, we were hosting Mercedes-Benz who were hosting their dealers from around the country to launch a new vehicle.
Yeah.
And I came in the morning and I said to our night auditor, so we're all good for the check-in for all the Mercedes-Benz dealers? And he said, no, we're 60 rooms overbooked.
You're joking.
Okay. what are we going to do? This wasn't entirely my fault, but I had to deal with it, and it was a horrendous 24 hours that I had to deal with. So much so that so I was down on the coast in East London, which was a 2.5-hour plane journey from Johannesburg. Head office was in Johannesburg. Mercedes-Benz, who had their manufacturing plant in East London in South Africa, got to hear, obviously, that we were overbooked, and our solution was to double up the dealers into the rooms, but Mercedes-Benz were having none of that. They were single rooms, that's it. And I got a phone call from the top brass at head office saying, if you don't sort it out, we will charter a plane and we will come down and sort you out.
Fucking hell. That's not a call you want, is it?
No. And I booked every hotel room that I could do in town. I did all my best to move non-Mercedes-Benz dealers out of the hotel into accommodation. I ran around the town putting fruit baskets and bottles of wine and apology letters, and I have never grovelled so much. As I did during that 24 hours, it was humbling. Yeah, it was humbling. But it also taught me as well, a bit of grovelling every now and again. You in the hospitality industry and in so many businesses, we deal with people and human beings make mistakes. It's how you deal with that to try and put it right.
You know what? It's so true that we're a recruitment agency.
Yeah.
We had literally a challenge at the week. We got a new client on. We put someone in for an induction, and then they pulled on the shift. So we'd done a 2-hour free induction. They were in the next day, so I quickly got someone else, and they couldn't do it either. So we drove someone an hour across town, dropped them off, and picked them up for the shift to cover it. And it's that bit of work that no one sees in the hospitality sector.
Exactly.
It's that service-led industry that no one sees. But
quietly in the background, lots of stuff goes on.
But you surrender your soul for 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And it's that bit of work, mate. That's the resilience piece that you need when you run the business.
100%, Ryan. 100%. Yeah. You can't, running your business, you can't say it's 5 o'clock, switch off now, deal with it tomorrow. No, you've got to deal with it.
And it's so difficult to explain that to people, because people talk about work-life balance, right? And I believe in work-life balance, and people talk about burnout and sort of things like that. Now, the difference is I'm not saying work 7 days a week, and sometimes you have to, but I'm saying you might have to sacrifice a little bit of your personal time to get where you want to be. But I'm also saying maintain your well-being, do the things you like to do, don't do the things that you know that are going to be bad for you, and you might have to put a bit more extra work in, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
It's that bit of work, but if you think you're going to be successful in a career that earn over £30,000, and if you think you're going to run a business and not put it in them hours, it's not happening. It's not happening.
No.
I promise you, it will never happen. I'll look in the camera and say, it won't happen. Because you just have to, mate. That's just the way the world works.
Yeah. Getting people to understand that is another challenge.
Yeah.
Because very often they come out of environments where the norm is 8 to 5 is when I work.
Yeah.
And 5 till 8 is when I have my family life, and Saturday and Sunday the same.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult mould to break.
And they resent having to make a phone call on a Saturday afternoon, or deal with a text message at 8 o'clock in the morning, or a call at 5 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And if you have any of that, you're not set up to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
You're not.
Yeah. Many years ago, I realised, and this comes from the hospitality industry, I don't have a work life and a personal life.
Yeah,
I have a life.
Yeah.
I think you're very similar to that.
I'm exactly the same, mate.
So they all mould into one another.
Yeah.
What I do know is when I do stuff which isn't work related, it's real quality stuff.
Yeah.
And
because you've worked so hard, it pays for it.
100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Last Saturday I spent the morning doing stuff which needed to be done for work.
Yeah.
That wasn't work. That was just part of what I have to do.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, I went on a massive long dog walk. Sunday, I had the kids round. We had lunch. We chewed the cud. It's just life.
Yeah, exactly the same for me. There is no start, middle, end. Sometimes it's really high pressure, but that pressure can be from home as well.
Yeah.
It can be just as difficult having 2 kids and 2 dogs.
It's no different.
And it's no different to someone handing the notice in and a client not paying on time. It's exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's just different pressures everywhere. But the problem is, if you try and put this imaginary barrier that you think you need to put in, it actually makes things worse. Yeah. It actually makes things worse. Yeah. And you're better off not having it in and just enjoying it. And if I have to pick a call up for 10 minutes, I'll take the call. If I want to leave after this podcast, I can get up, go to the sunbed shop, I can go and get my hair cut, and go and do a bit of shopping as well if I want to. Yeah. I can just go home and lie on couch. Yeah. And that's the difference in it. I won't do because I love what I'm doing. I'm on a bit of mission at the minute, but that's the difference, isn't it? I think that whole mindset shift is difficult from some people's perspectives. But if you've been in the hospitality sector, I think it's pretty close to it. Yeah. I think it's because I know people work in the hospitality sector. And you can see it when you speak to them. There's a franchisee we're taking on, and she works in. Oh, can't know if I say this. She works at a very busy airport. Yeah. And she does all the traffic control. Oh wow. Yeah. So imagine all the security. You know, the people coming in through the scanners and the body scanners and all that. Can you imagine that? A busy airport. She's in control of the whole thing.
Oh, I see.
She's the same, 2 o'clock in the morning till 10. She just says I work all the time. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, she's going to be incredible. She's going to answer emails at 6 o'clock in the morning. She's going to make that phone call if she has to. She's going to drive across the territory to go and drop someone off for a shift. Yeah. They're the skills you look for. Yeah. Not can you send this email? No. Because that's nothing. It's the soft skills, them bits.
So soft skills, it's that willingness to react, not to say they can wait. Yeah. You know, I'm not. Who do they think they are? Yeah. You know, I'm off now. Yeah. No, that's not what creates success in a business.
Yeah. Or success in a career.
100%. Yeah.
100%. We just went off on a tangent then, but it's just it's nice now. I know you a little bit better. I can see your hospitality background in you. Yeah. I think it's a really good foundation.
Yeah. I remember when I went into got my first, became a franchisee in the print industry.
Yeah. Is that what you would? Is that where you started?
Yeah. It was Quick Copy was the brand, which was an international brand. Here it was, for various reasons, it was called Call Quick. Call Quick still a brand here in the UK. Yeah. But my colleague, my peers in the hotel business said, "You're gonna do printing. Yeah. You're gonna print business cards. You're a hotelier." Yeah. And I just said, "Look, I've learned how to do to what a P&L looks like. Yeah. I can read a P&L back to front, up, down, sideways. I know exactly what that means. That came from the training that I got in the hospitality industry. I know what quality is. Yeah. I know what keeping promises is. I know what customer service is. Why can't I do that in printing?" Yeah. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, but you're good at it as well.
Yeah, and what I really learned was that our biggest competitor in our local market was dirt cheap. Yeah. And I blew them out of the water.
I bet you did with service.
Selling business cards 4 times more expensive than they did.
Yeah, but they got the experience of someone who's been hospitality.
What they got was quality. What they got was everything from start to finish. We scrutinised it in terms of, does that look good? Are we delivering on time? Are we communicating with them? Is everything? Have we got a great relationship with them? Yeah. Are we building that relationship? And that's all from hospitality. That's not me. That's hospitality.
Yeah, it's that service, isn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, did you and the wife both open that franchise?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Was it all right working with the missus?
Yeah.
My mum and dad have always had businesses together, and I work with my mum, so I know what family-run businesses are like. Some people say to me, "How do you work with your mum?" And I'm like, "Are you joking? I don't want to work with anyone else apart from my mum."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know, like it's amazing, isn't it? So how long did you have the print business for?
5 years.
Did you sell it?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing as well, selling a business, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, I think from a franchising perspective, I think it's really important at the beginning of a franchisee's journey in franchising you should be asking them about their exit plan, or talking to them about their exit plan. Because if we're in business, if we are business people, you're a business person, you will have an exit plan, I am sure. You know what your goals are. So why not have that conversation with franchisees as well, right at the beginning? And very often they're shocked. They go, what? I haven't even started yet and you're wanting to get rid of me. No. It's just understanding what your goal is. What your goal is. And I knew exactly what my goal was with the print business. Timing was different, but I knew that I wanted to create an asset. And we did, and we sold it on. It took me 3 weeks to sell it, and that's when we returned to the UK.
So you returned to UK and opened that for 5 years, and that's what you did there. Is that
so we opened the franchise in the UK, in South Africa.
Oh right, okay.
Then sold it,
and
then moved back to the UK, and that was because of violence in South Africa at that time, etc., and having 2 young kids, and etc.
Do you want to be a bit more serious?
Yeah. Then,
what do you think about running a business with 2 young kids? It's a challenge, do you think, or not?
I think we just took it on the chin. We just
it's a funny one, isn't it? It's like sometimes I talked to this about with Dan Archer about having been a young dad.
Oh yeah. With Finn.
Yeah, and it's that. Did you have any times where you felt like you were sacrificing times with your kids, or do you feel like how do you feel? Do you have an honest opinion about it? How do you feel about that?
So, right at they were young. One was 3, and one we went into we invested in the franchise as a franchisee when my second was only 6 months old.
Wow, that's fucking hell, man.
Yeah, and I had to go for my franchisee training in Houston, Texas.
Wow, the wife will definitely not be happy.
And it was 3 weeks. Not a week, not 3 days, not whatever.
With a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Yeah, so we decamped from South Africa, firstly to the UK. My wife and 2 kids stayed in the UK with my parents and a 6-month-old baby in the middle of winter, having come from South Africa. I've hot-footed it over to Houston. Had an absolute ball.
It's really hard work, this.
and then we got back via the UK, came back, then down to South Africa, then opened the business. I mean, it was crazy when you look back at it.
I look at my life. And my little lad's 7 and 4, and they're coming to life big time now. Jackson's really coming to life, and I'm really finding a better, deeper connection with them as a dad. And Logan's 5 in December. Yeah, Jackson's 7 is he 7 now? Can't remember. And I had a full week away from home last week, and it felt like an eternity for them too. And they definitely missed me. Like they could really tell they missed me. Yeah. And I often question myself: is it worth the sacrifice, or am I missing a connection with my kids? And I think, well, no, because I speak to them every day, I FaceTime every day, I bring them a treat back, and I find out what's going on with them. And I feel like I'd rather be an inspiring dad to them, and then they understand what that is. They've been to Tezlom, they go to Charlene's salon. Like I feel like they understand what work ethic is. I don't know, but I just wanted to know if you had a view on it at all, because you'll have been through. You probably forgot now.
No, I don't. I haven't forgotten about it. So I think from my perspective, from what I've experienced, just carry on. Yeah. Because your kids will know that you're a solid guy. You're there for them. You're having probably really good conversations with them. You're having meaningful influence on them. And that will really manifest itself as they get into their later teens, and into their 20s and 30s. I'll be upfront and honest with you. This is where it gets a bit honest, right? Yeah.
Well,
we've seen it on others, but I got divorced back in 2005, 2006. It, like quite a lot of marriage breakups, it can be quite traumatic. Difficult on the kids as well, and it ended up in myself and both of my kids having a really challenging relationship for a few years. we now have the most amazing relationship.
Yeah.
So even through the, you've just said, I was away last week, and am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing, et cetera, it's about how you manage that and how you pull it all together, and always remembering as a parent that it's your responsibility to manage that. It's not the kid's responsibility. And you've got to be an advisor. You've got to be just there for them if they make a mistake. Somebody who encourages them and has really good, strong confidence, and let them go if they want to go. Let them go and embrace that and celebrate it, etc. My daughter lives in Canada.
Yeah, amazing.
She's been there since she left university. She's now she's getting into it. She'll be 30 next year. I do talk to some parents who, what's it like? Your daughter's in Canada. Happy days. She's absolutely living the dream.
She's full of life's tapestries, massive independence.
We have a brilliant relationship. Technology makes it easier, but wow, why would you hold somebody? And she still phones me and says, "Hey, Dad, can I just ask you something? This is happening. What would you do? Just help me understand this a little bit more." Hey, you can't wish for anything better than that. So you carry on.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I like that opinion. I'm the same opinion, but I always know there's other opinions and differences on it.
Yeah,
but
of course there are.
And everyone's entitled to them in different ways, aren't they?
Of course they are, right.
But it's just, I feel like you have to make, I know people who are in the army and they work away all the time for weeks on end. I know someone who works away in months on end and doesn't see his two kids. So, but do I think he's a great dad? Yeah, I think he's absolutely amazing. Solid. Yeah, he's a solid fella, and he supplies money for his family, and when he's there, he's fucking there. He takes them to all the clubs, and he's there all the time. So I feel like, I think you have to manage it as the best you can, and there's going to be sacrifices made no matter what, isn't there? But I think the other side of it is if you make your kids your life, you're taking away their independence, and I think that's the other thing as well. If you're there all the time living in their pocket, I think that also kind of suffocates them, and then where are you in the end of it? Because eventually when they're 12, 13, 14 and move on, they're going to want to do their own thing. So where does that leave you? How are you going to inspire them? And
absolutely. And I mean, I'm now in a situation with my two kids, whether it's the three of us together or separately. In terms of business, we talk business.
I like that.
We talk business. I'm XYZ number of years old. They're forging away in their career, and we just, we talk about everything else as well, but when it comes to business, we're on exactly the same wavelength.
Must be a nice place for you though, internally, to have them conversations. I bet it's quite a nice...
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet it is.
Absolutely. It's cool.
You remind me of my dad in that respect, because that's what...
Oh, really?
For my dad... me and my mum just constantly talk. My dad passed away, but...
Yes.
Me and mum, it's always, we're literally at our house on Sunday, and it goes from cooking steak with talking about ribeye steak and how it tastes and the seasonings and all that sort of stuff. Then we're talking about the interest rates and stuff, and then we're straight into work and how we're going to play out the next week and how's this going to work. And then I'm saying, can we do this financial way? I love that. It fills me up inside. I love that I've got that relationship with mum. It's
brilliant, isn't it?
I feel like I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very grateful for that. Some people don't have that relationship. I've got a very good friend of mine who's not got a relationship with his dad at all. So I feel very humble and grateful for it. So it's
sadly, there's quite a lot of people who don't have that really strong relationship.
I think you've got to be extremely grateful for it.
Absolutely.
We've just gone on a bit of a tangent then, Tim. But for me, it's running a business, having a franchise, and being in this industry. It's not always just about the profit and the growth and the following the business plan, the ops manual. It's the bits in between that's interesting, because that's the bits that I fundamentally struggle with. I know you will have struggled with. You might not so much now. You're a bit longer in the tooth and be a bit like my mum. I don't think things bother you as much because you'll have been through it. So correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but when you've been through different stuff in business and you've run a business and sold a business and had teams and made mistakes, they don't seem so much, pardon my French again, as an oh fuck moment. I call them oh fuck moments where you think it's the end, that's it.
I think getting to know your personality more and more and more, I think when you get to my age, you're still going to be going, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I still have nights where I don't sleep.
Yeah.
Because I take what I do extremely seriously.
Yeah, you do.
So something which has happened, it will go over and over and over in my mind. Why did it happen? What do we have to do to fix it? What effect is this going to have on the business? What is the time scale that is going to be? All of those things go through my mind. I've never got out of that, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You've just got to be aware that it does come and hit you sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
And you go, oh, if I could just get this out of my mind. But in a way, it's a healthy thing because you are taking it so seriously. You're thinking it through. You're finding solutions.
Yeah.
So no, I don't just ignore these things anymore, even though I've gone through them time and time and time again.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
you think you react better to them though? Do you think you react better?
Yeah, because I think so. You draw on your experience.
Yeah.
There's only so much that it's, there's pots of problems, aren't there? So you get to a stage in your life where you go, I've done that before. So what did I do then? How am I going to fix it now?
Yeah.
And so you can draw on your experience so much. We've got a situation at work just this week, and I've sent an email to somebody and say, in my experience, this is what's likely to happen. So prepare yourself by doing this, and this.
Yeah. Damage limitation.
Yeah, because I've been there, done that. Got a T-shirt.
Yeah. I guess that's what I mean, is that you can react better to it.
Yeah.
The world's not ended because...
No, it's not going to end.
Yeah.
But it's still serious stuff.
Yeah.
Because it affects so many people.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in if you're in franchising, and your franchising is about supporting franchisees.
Yeah.
There's lots that can go wrong in franchising as a franchisor.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to take that. You're dealing with people's livelihoods, and they've invested in your brand, and etc. People's
families, it's everything.
Everything. Yes. When I took my became a franchisee, you asked me about my wife joining, and quite often franchisees say, my wife will carry on bringing in the income while I sort the building the new business up. Not me. I said, come on, darling. Yeah, we'll do this together. We'll put the house on the line, the dog on the line, the kids on the line, everything. And we literally sat there on our first day. We had a bricks and mortar place, so we were paying rent from day one, equipment, leases, etc.
Yeah, everything, the full out.
Yeah, and we'd done this 3 weeks of training, and we sat in the we didn't have a customer. We had a couple of staff members which we were already paying, and my wife sat opposite me, and she said, we looked at each other and just sort of said, well, what now?
Fucking hell, you really ripped the band-aid off, haven't you? That's serious.
And I said, well, you came into the business, your role is to sell, so you better get out there and start knocking on doors and selling. And that's how we operated. She would go out in the morning, knock on doors, bring quotes back. I would spend the late afternoon and early evening doing the quotes, printing them off. She'd come in the morning, take the quotes off my desk, go and deliver the quotes, do some more cold calling, bring them back. We had files this thick.
Good times, mate, sounds like.
Yeah.
Good
and
times.
Then my job was to phone them and say, how are we doing? Do you want to go ahead with the quote? No. Do you want to go ahead with the quote? No. Do you want to go ahead with the quote? Yes. So I learned then in the early days that every no gets you closer to a yes.
100%.
Yeah. And that's how we took it from, well, what do we do now, to we sold it in 5 years' time at a significant gain.
Love that, mate.
Yeah.
So you sell the business, you got divorced.
Sold the business, came to the UK. This is my only period that I haven't been involved in franchising. we invested in some leased pubs and restaurants in the early noughties, when investing in pubs and from the big pub codes at that time was a good way of realising a good return on your investment as a leaseholder. So we did that, but I was back in the hospitality industry with still relatively young kids, and it really did put a strain on things.
Sacrifices all again.
Yeah, and that ended. That was a difficult time. Business was good, but it caused problems with the marriage, and so we got divorced, etc. So there is a warning sign.
I won't scratch too much because it's difficult times, but can you remember how you got through it mentally? Did you do anything in particular that helped you get through?
Oh yeah. I had some. I went straight to counselling.
Did you?
Yeah, I just needed
to get out,
to speak.
Yeah.
It was nothing more than that. Was like my once a week, twice a week. That was my safe place.
Yeah.
That I could just not be judged and just let it out.
I'm a massive advocate for counselling.
I know you are,
yeah,
and it's great talking to you about this actually, but because I don't talk, this is a Theo moment.
Yeah. But it is.
It was a tough time.
Yeah.
It was a tough time. I was having a difficult relationship with my kids. Obviously the marriage was falling apart, and
you were in the pub game again.
And I was in the pub business, trying to keep the pubs going. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the family home, etc., etc. So that
it's funny, isn't it? Did you find counselling was always a reflection on yourself? That's what I've always found. It just helped me understand my emotions.
Yeah.
That's that I get.
Yeah, absolutely. I was good for a few days after that because I knew what was going on in my head and why it was going on.
Yeah.
And I'd figured that out myself. Nobody's telling me, because counsellors don't tell you anything.
No, they don't. That's what everyone thinks they're going to get.
But they don't.
Yeah,
it's just a safe place to speak with no judgment.
Yeah.
And so for the few days after that, whatever was being thrown my way, I was able to deal with that until the next session. And you also begin to realise that, this was back in the early mid-noughties, when I don't think even mental health then was, such a recognised thing back then. But I realised then how powerful the mind is.
Do you think you're a bit depressed?
Yeah. Oh, I know I was.
Yeah.
I know I was.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Not wanting to get up in the morning, and
just
the days were a real drag, and I was definitely. And so I get it.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it was tough. But again, I think that counselling helped.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. I get it. That some people really suffer from depression.
I think. I'll be honest with you. I think it's however you want to decide to get out of the mood you're in, as long as you start to doing it. My mum has antidepressants. She didn't like the counselling side of it. I went into counselling. Now I jump in cold baths of water and I do all sorts of shit. This morning, mate, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was pretty fucking tired and pissed off this morning. I had a bit of a dark moment. I've got a gym at the bottom of my garden. Had about half an hour just lying on the floor. Those are things that I need. I think, just being solace, silence, listening to the rain, pulling yourself around. But it's that ability of trying to get yourself out of the darkness and that awareness that I think counselling kind of helps you make. Yeah. I think if you go to professional counselling, it makes you reflect on yourself quite a lot. And then I think from that has helped me create this thing where it don't matter how fucking sad I'm feeling or down or particularly exhausted, I start to go, right, start again, Ryan. This is what I need to do to get there. And I don't know if can we sort of reflect on that?
I don't know whether whether it's a depressive side of me. You know what? This is a bit again like Theo again. I've never had this conversation with anybody.
Yeah. So, but it's important, Tim, because
but I think I do get into places where I think about the future, or challenges with personal relationships or whatever it may be. And everybody who's listening to this, I think, well, we all have that. But if you dig into it, probably, there's some depressive parts in there, and it's how some people find it really difficult, and others have some coping or management.
Yeah, well, coping mechanisms. But I mean, someone might watch this and make a comment that I'm wrong, but my belief from when I went to see the doctor is if you're completely depressed for more than 2 weeks, that's where you're clinically depressed, and that's where you get seek help. Okay. So you can have they call it the blues or whatever. Lots of different terminology, but you can be depressed for a couple of days, and that's being down, the blues, whatever you can. But if it kind of lasts a little bit longer than 2 weeks, that's where you should be sort of questioning things. And I've definitely fucking been there.
Have you really?
Couple of mate, fucking yes, I have. But I did other things, and I found my coping mechanism, and I've worked on it, and I think it does. And I feel like actually you probably have as well, and you maybe just didn't realise, but definitely the counselling's gone in there. But it's that resilience bit of work that you say, I'm not gonna let that happen, or I can see this happening, so I need to do something about it.
You're probably right. In my case, I have learned. So it's really interesting. You're pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm probably not as active, but I'm still pretty active on LinkedIn.
I think you're very active on LinkedIn.
And some of the things that I put on there, a bit like you, is things that help me cope. So you'll put some cold water activity that you've done with a mate up in a mountain or what have you. It's not happening with me, I can assure you. But it's what works for everyone.
Of course.
So my thing is, I've not done it in any depth, but mindfulness, I picked up on that. Clearing your mind of stuff, being outside, just look around you and think about what's around you, the birds, the trees, the sky, the clouds, whatever it may be. Just think about that. God, it helps me tremendously. So that, and really powerful, brisk walking in the countryside, early in the morning, cold. Yesterday was an early one, and one at 8 o'clock in the evening, because I knew I was coming here tomorrow, so I wouldn't get one in this morning. But that set me up for a pretty decent night's sleep when I had to be up really early this morning to get over here. These things, and especially if I know I'm having, there is going to be a busy day ahead, that getting the mind cleared of crap. And
you can make a lot of peace, can't you, on your own outside?
Some people say to me, because I now live on my own. But I have a great social life. I'm always up and down the country. People say, how can you live on your own? Hey, after the busy work day, going to a gala event for franchising, or doing this or doing that, or coming over here for a podcast, or whatever it is, I'm happy to get home and just have some peace. Just have some peace. Exactly. And I can, my mind gets completely cleared.
I get that, mate. I love that. So it's nice that you've got a routine as well, which is good as well, because I feel like there's also good to have a routine in something, even if you don't want to do it. Sometimes it's good to go and do it as well. Sometimes just throwing yourself into it. Then you realise you didn't need it. Counselling's the same as well. Is sometimes you don't think you need counselling. You go counselling, you walk out, and you think, fucking hell, I've just told the world. There's that.
I tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, more people need to go and do it. Just experience it. And then you'll realise that actually it is a thing. It does help. And it
gives you a new perspective on life.
New perspective, on how you can make your life actually better. And not just accept stuff.
Sorry, mate. I just, it's because I know how to run a business. I run one. And I know how to do franchising. I do franchising. But it's so interesting finding the people in the franchise industry and what they go through to actually run a business, and what the pain points you go through: divorce, selling a business, creating something new. Let's try and get back on track. We're not going to finish your career, because I think it's probably going to be about 3 hours long, this podcast. But I know you went into tutor doc. Could you just talk me through leaving the pub game and into how did that happen?
So I wanted to in a way, I wanted to give back.
Yeah.
I wanted to, the experience that I'd had of learning what good looks like in customer service, etc., running my own business, and being relatively successful at that, and doing something that I loved doing. Hey, what's that? Franchising. Yeah. So I looked for support roles in franchising. Joined a franchising guru in the UK. Many people who are listening to this podcast will know him very well. He's not part of the sector anymore, really. It's a guy by the name of Melvin Lusty. He used to be a chairman of the BFA. Right. Owned Rainbow International, right. Sold that, then bought Chemex, and I joined Chemex as a support manager. Ended up being the national sales manager. Worked with Michael Graham for a few years, and then Frank Milner at Tutor Doctor put the word out in the industry. Does anybody know of a support guy that can help us support Tutor Doctor franchisees in the UK? And we had a couple of conversations, and I joined the Tutor Doctor team, and I was with them for 7 or 8 years until 2019.
The first place, again, just forgot the name where you said, is where was the first place?
Chemex.
Chemex. What did they do?
So they supplied and still do high-end cleaning materials to the hospitality and healthcare sector, so care homes, etc., and also to some automotive stuff as well. So it was van-based, but again based on quality. They also produce cleaning regimes to help, in particular, schools, restaurants, pubs, hotels remain and become compliant in their, for the environmental health officer and what have you. Yeah. So that was all about service. It was all about quality. It was all about marketing. It was all about delivering what you promise on time, etc. So it was perfect.
That sits you down to the ground, mate.
Yeah, and we were selling washing up liquid, but it was what was behind that.
Service is always service.
There's always a common thread, and then people. Okay, so you've gone from the hospitality industry to the print industry to cleaning materials, and then a global education brand comes knocking on your door. Yeah.
Is any? It's hard. This is a big question, isn't it? But you mentioned a couple of names of people, and I don't know them, to be honest with you, Tim. But you feel like there's some people who've been made some impressions in your life in franchise. They teach you. It's interesting, isn't it, what people teach you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that Melvin Lusty taught me, so simple. So franchisees will often say, that piece of marketing doesn't work in my area. Yeah. I've delivered the flyers that you told me, and I didn't get one lead. Yeah. Okay. So how many flyers did you deliver? Well, I delivered 1,000. I delivered 10,000. I didn't get one lead. Melvin Lusty said, Tim, just go and tell him, take the 10,000 flyers, divide them into 10 packs of 1,000, and deliver 1,000 flyers to the same 1,000 houses 10 times in a year. They'll then get leads. Yeah. Not 10,000 flyers to 10,000 houses once.
Yeah, it's so true.
So,
we do exactly the same thing, 50 clients a number of times instead of 250 clients once.
Correct, absolutely. So, one of the things with franchising is teaching people who have never been in business before how to actually do stuff, and showing them and repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. So people like, Melvin Lusty, I just find his backstory is absolutely...
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
I have to get him on then.
Yeah, I don't know how active he is. I haven't spoken to Melvin for a number of years, but a lot of people know his backstory. If you ask around, they'll know his backstory.
I'll get him on then.
Yeah, he took Tezlom. He took Rainbow International from virtually nothing to 120 franchisees, and then sold out, as he calls it, a lottery win. Yeah. And then helped other franchisors and what have you.
That's the beauty in it. Like I always feel like everyone gets back in franchising and helps if they can, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So and then carrying on that was
Tutor Doctor a big move for you, do you feel?
So yeah, it was an interesting move. It ended up being a big move because I was just supporting the UK franchisees, and Tutor Doctor was already operating in 14, 15 countries.
Wow.
I ended up helping to open South Africa, Australia.
Mate, I just can't even dream of stuff like that. I would love to do that, mate.
It'll come. It's just having that mindset.
Yeah,
you can do anything.
I need to get more people around me to just make me think like that.
Yeah. It is, and Tutor Doctor was part of that.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah, that's what I need. Like, you need people, the conversations, don't you, and the inroads. And I've had a couple of conversations. I need to get there, but
some of it is there's a bit of fear. Some of it is a bit of I don't know how it'll work there. But sometimes you just got to just
fucking go for it.
Do it. Yeah. Find a couple of people who can give you the advice and what have you. But I ended up, I guess, was it year 3 or year 4 with Tutor Doctor, having done some work in South Africa, Australia and what have you, that I became responsible for the support of all the franchises across the globe. So I had some really good team.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have
I'd worked with them within Tutor Doctor, and so we had somebody in Australia, we had somebody in South America, we had somebody who was responsible for
how do you manage that? Like, that's insane, isn't it? Like, managing a team. I've got a team of, like, I think 16, and I'm tested every day to the limits.
It was interesting. So when the pandemic came along and everybody went, we've got to go remote working. Well, hello, I've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years or however long it was. So my day was getting onto either Zoom or Teams or whatever it was back then, talking to a guy in Australia or a franchisee in Australia.
Again, hospitality times, different time.
I had to figure that all out. So my Australia thing would be 8 o'clock in Australia or 6 o'clock in Australia, and 6 o'clock in the morning here. All the other way around.
The hospitality comes back in again, which is all the different like nationalities and backgrounds, the way they talk, everything,
culture. So I'd be talking to my to Miguel in Santiago, Chile, about the challenges that he had with franchisees in Colombia and
it's insane, that, mate, isn't it? I love that.
And you know what? There is this common thread throughout the world, where the franchisee in Colombia would be saying, "This piece of marketing doesn't work," and I'd be able to, "Doesn't work here," and I'd be able to say, "Funny that the guy in Australia said exactly the same thing."
I get it. The guy in London's like, "It doesn't work here," and in Birmingham, like, "It fucking does."
Yeah, it does. So we'd have these conversations going on. America, Canada, Australia, South Africa, they'd all be the same conversations, and I'd be going.
It's just, man, I think when you're at that stage, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of it is emotionally supporting franchisees at that stage, and just how you lead your team and what you're doing to grow, and it's emotional support when it gets to that level, isn't it? It must be.
But there's also one of the things I really enjoyed about being at Tutor Doctor is the innovativeness of the brand, and what we were able to do to support franchisees and their growth, and how we could develop new income streams for them, and things like developing peer groups to help
support each other.
Really good quality growing franchisees who'd outgrown the standard support, which very often happens in franchising, and identifying those people and saying, right, let's get you guys all together, and you can become a peer group,
Yeah.
an accountability group. I'll just sit there and I'll tell you to be there on that date at this time, produce this, discuss.
Yeah. But that's best. It's so the information, and the thing is, they don't believe you, do they? But they'll believe the guys working next door side.
Exactly.
It's not belief. It's just they can't relate.
Well,
they feel like you can't relate.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the bigger, more successful, more tenured franchisees, they're looking for more out of a franchisor.
Yeah.
They're looking for, I don't want the flyers anymore. I want something bigger, better. I'm becoming a real businessman here. You get more. You find purpose in other things. That's why being a leader and a good manager. So you get good at your craft. You go, right. Okay, I'm sick of this craft because I'm so good at it. Give me something else to do, and then you get something else to do, and that's where when you become a good leader, that's cross between becoming a salesman to a manager. And then leaving management into leadership. Is the biggest gap that people don't understand. And that's where everything, I think, what you're talking about as a franchisor, you become a franchisee, then you become an amazing franchisee, and then you're like, I need more. And that's where you start giving back, coaching, coercing, helping. And it's that piece of work, isn't it? Where it's like that. It's the internal stuff, because the money becomes irrelevant after a certain amount. You still need it. You still need it.
But
But you're doing all that stuff now, because franchisees are very controlling in their own business. This is my business. I don't want to give that up to anybody else to screw it up. Yeah. But if they want to grow, they've got to. If they want to grow their business, they've got to grow themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
And they've got to become leaders, and as you say, not managers. And bring people into their own businesses, just like a franchisor. For him to grow or her to grow, they have to bring people in.
Let's start dismantling my ego. Let's start being more aware. Let's start. There's the whole fucking piece. We could do 3 hour podcasts. Tell you,
from a franchising point of view, so as you'll know, we may have enough time to discuss my transition into. I'm
trying to get there, and it's
one of the things I miss the most is supporting franchisees in their growth aspirations. Every franchisee has a different growth aspiration, and I love understanding what each of those growth aspirations is and seeing those.
Do you end up talking to people like in a third like I end up talking to people about themselves as if they're in the room, like that bit of coaching work. I love that bit of it. Well, you like this, don't you? So let's do it. And they're like, yeah, I do like that. That I love that.
Yeah.
That sets me on fire.
Yeah. I think that my biggest thing with supporting franchisees is right at the beginning and having an in-depth conversation about who they are, what brought them to this point, what is it that they are looking for, and then I can figure out and having those types of conversations, and then figuring out how I can help. I remember one franchisee, remain nameless, very successful in the tutor doctor world in the UK. They were battling. They'd got to a point in their business where they just felt that they'd hit a block. They didn't know what to do to get to the next stage. They knew that the market was there, but they just didn't know how to. That thing of moving, I think they would just be moving into a management place rather than leaders. They've moved into the leadership stuff now. And all I needed to do was go down to their, hot-footed it down to their place, sat around the kitchen table with them, listened to their challenge, and gave them 3 or 4 pieces of advice. It wasn't textbook stuff. It wasn't, this is how we do it around here. This is what it says in the operations manual. It was, I hear where your pain points are. This is what you've got to do. And it wasn't 3 or 4 months later that I got a phone call thanking me for just that 1.5 hours or whatever it was. Nothing in writing, no action plan, agreed and signed off and all that type of typical franchising stuff, etc. Which has its place.
Yeah, but that bit is the real magic that sticks it all together.
Yeah, and they're one of the top performing franchisees across the Tutor Doctor international network today. Now, I don't go, oh, that's because of me.
No, you're just part of it.
They just needed somebody to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And away they go.
That soundboard. Just a little
That's
sound.
all you need. Yeah. I love that in franchise.
Yeah, me too.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, me too.
So.
Come on then, mate. Tutor Doctor. Worldwide. What happened? How did you leave that, and why are you doing what you're doing now?
Part of the thing with at that stage, as you've probably gathered, I was doing quite a bit of travelling. Yeah. And I literally was going across the pond for 4 days, back here for 4 days, and back there for 4 days. So it was good when it started, but then but also we were here in the UK. We were using the company that I now head up as a service provider to deliver better results for franchisees, and the founders of the company just called me out of the blue one day and said, "Hey, you're pretty hot on customer service because you put us under pressure to deliver service. Do you want to have a chat?" And we had a chat, and they said, "Look, we're looking for somebody, one, who is absolutely lives and breathes customer service, and two, understands the franchising world inside out." And I said, "Well, yeah, that's me."
Yeah, fucking hell. 2 biggest ticks ever.
Yeah, so I joined Symphony 2019, and so this is like full circle. I'm now. I love it because I'm still connected to the franchising world, as you know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. And I pop up at franchising events and things that Ed Purnell puts on, or the franchise shows, or etc. But I'm running a business, Symphony, which is not only servicing the franchise sector, but many other sectors in the. But franchising, I love it when I can talk, because I understand. I understand the pain points.
Multiple pain points.
And I can hear. So I'm always saying to my team, what you've heard there means this, not just that. There's lots of nuances you've got to understand. It's difficult for a team who have not lived and breathed franchising. But I support them in that. So it's
interesting role.
It's interesting, and also helping to develop and improve upon the original thing that we were doing when I was with Tutor Doctor with Symphony, to now helping both franchisors with their franchise recruitment and also their franchise network with their consumer acquisition. So,
I am going to try and get this podcast wrapped up, but there's something that it's just scratching my head. And just talk to me a little bit about, because you'll have taught them people working at Symphony about franchising, and you talk about the people, and you'll have had teams underneath you at Tutor Doctor. Learning about leadership, learning about being a leader, has that been a difficult act for you over the years? And like treating a team like a people, like, is there any sort of key things that you could, if you were giving me some advice about growing my team or expanding across the UK or into different countries, is there anything that you'd think maybe 1 or 2 key deliverables that you need to, or anything that you think?
So let me put it right out there. I'm not a natural leader. I'm a natural manager. So I have to really work at being a leader. Yeah. Sometimes I can revert quite quickly back into being a manager, which is something which is hard for me. Because leadership is where it's at. Empowering people,
motivating people,
motivating
get them to think about themselves. Everybody being part of this bigger picture. That's really important. So I don't think there are, there's not one particular deliverable. I'm a big on communication across the team.
one of my videos, I think this last week, was about communication within the franchise network. But that's within your internal team as well. Every form of communication that you can think of to deliver a message, use it. Video, email, talking one-to-one, newsletters.
Just being in contact with your people.
Being in contact with the people. It's the most difficult thing in the world for any business to do, is to keep their communication levels, peak. Just taking people out for lunch. Just something which we're going to be introducing into Symphony very, very shortly, and something which I learned from Tutor Doctor is the quarterly conversation. You may already do it, but
we do some one-to-one stuff, but I feel like that's a management thing. But I think also leadership, for me, from that perspective, is just I talk to some people about what they're going to do with the rest of their life, and talk to them about life goals and things like that. And I feel like that's also being a friend, but also being a good leader as well, because it makes people think about what they're going to do and how they're contributing to the business.
Exactly.
And I think getting people to think about how they're going to contribute to the future of the business is showing good leadership. I could be wrong, but I personally, from my gut, feel like that. If people start thinking about how they can contribute to the future of their business and how that's going to affect their future, I feel like that's a good show of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are so many aspects to leadership. Leadership is about, good leadership is about having trust in people, coaching them, letting people make mistakes, and coaching them what good looks like. Going back to the quarterly conversation, I'm really keen to, and I have been for a while, to get it implemented into Symphony. I feel like I've let the team down by not doing it, because it's actually quite simple, but it is literally taking people out for a coffee and just saying, so what's working for you this last couple of months? What's not? Why? How could we improve that for you? How could we make it better for you? Just having a conversation. It's not necessarily formal. It's just letting somebody on a one-to-one, even keel basis have a conversation with you. And it could be that they open up about, I'm not feeling that this job is quite right for me at the moment for whatever reason. You didn't know that. If you hadn't had that conversation with them, they could have just handed in the notice and gone, and you've lost a brilliant future leader in the business.
Again, back to communication, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting close to people is about leadership. And sometimes I fuck up. I'm the first to admit it.
I think, Tim, like I do as well, mate. And I feel like I hope I give my team enough empathy so that when I do mess up, they give me that empathy back. I feel like that's what I want, is that when I'm not doing something correctly, that I've been a good enough leader in the past, that they forgive. I think that's.
You're right.
I think you're probably the same.
Yeah, and another thing, if you're not doing it now, but encourage people, and I think you probably are anyway. Encourage people to say, "No, Ryan, that's not right," and here's the reason why I think it's not right.
I get that all the time. Anyway.
Good, good. You probably get it more than I do for whatever reason. Maybe it's my body language. I don't know. But I absolutely embrace people who say, "No, I don't agree with you." And here's the reason why.
Or come up with a solution to
here's the solution. And I think that's the sign of one good sign of a leader, where people are really comfortable to challenge something. Absolutely.
I'm going to wrap it up, mate.
Okay.
I feel like me and you could talk for about 5 more days about franchising, but you know what, mate? You've been an absolute pleasure to be around, have conversations with, and I'm so fucking glad I've got to know you a bit more better now. I completely understand who you are as a person, or my opinion of you, and I can completely see why you're in hospitality. I understand why you're in franchising, and the UK fundamentally needs people like you to carry on in the UK franchising industry so it grows and prospers from it. But thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much. If I could just make one thing, I've actually realised today that these podcasts are pure selfishness on your behalf, so you can get to know people in the franchising sector.
Kay knows this. It's completely selfish, but it's a selfish act. But Tim, what it does is it opens, people get to know you better, and then people will come into the franchise industry because of that. And that's what it was about for me. When I started the podcast, and I've said it on a few times, these podcasts, because people always say, like, we're not talking about franchising, we're talking about you and how you got into franchising and how you did it and then the pain points you go through. But you talk about Symphony all the time. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what Tutor Doctor is. Everyone knows what Tezlom is. But do they really know what we go through? Yeah. And that's why I started the podcast.
Yeah, and it's good. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, mate.
Worth the 3.5-hour drive here and back again.
I appreciate that as well. That's it, mate. I'm done.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Cheers, Ryan.